Good afternoon, DPW. It's great to be with you all this afternoon. Certainly it is a gorgeous day out, so for those of you that traveled in, thank you for bringing some wonderful weather. And my hope through this talk is that there's some tips and tricks that you'll pick up that will help your organizations potentially weather a storm. And I will say when and not necessarily if. The topic of cybersecurity certainly is at the forefront. For those of you that have been paying attention, at least here in the US, the news this past week has been all about Whole Foods and the impact of cyber attack there, as well as others, right? So this is certainly a growing phenomenon. And what I want to spend some time talking about today is the threat of your small and medium-sized businesses, for those of you that are larger organizations, and steps you might want to be thinking about in terms of helping to protect and to grow that ecosystem. And if you're happen to be a small and medium-sized business, this is a great opportunity for you as well to potentially learn some things about the size of your organization and risks that are at potentially the ready. So let's just start with a couple of statistics that may be of interest to you. By the end of this year, it's anticipated that roughly $10.5 trillion, yes, that is with a big T, of dollars will be impacted because of cybercrime. This is continuing to grow, and certainly with the onslaught of AI capabilities that are out in the marketplace, the opportunities for criminals to be able to spoof, phish, send emails has never been greater than before. So it is anticipated that these numbers will continue to rise in the years ahead. In addition, we know that roughly half of all organizations by the end of this year, particularly within their supply chains, will face a cyber attack. This is not something we are excited to talk about, typically as somebody in the supply chain world and the procurement world, but it is absolutely something that we need to be taking awareness about and absolutely ensuring that we've got activities that are in place. But the piece that I want to spend some time today talking with all of you about is really from the standpoint of what does this mean within the small and medium-sized business community. These are typically companies that comprise roughly 10,000 or less employees, and they face a rather different ecosystem than some of the larger organizations that are out there. What we also know is that cyber criminals could care less if you're big or you're small. All they're looking for is a way in to your organization to be able to create havoc. And unfortunately, the small and medium-sized business purveyors typically do not have the wherewithal, the skills, and the technology to make sure that they are protecting themselves, which means that if you're a larger player, you're at risk. So look, if you're a large organization, all I can say is take a big deep of relaxation. If you're like me and have worked or currently work for a large corporation, I know we all took that big sigh every year when corporate training came around and said, you got to update your cybersecurity training certificates. And we scratched our heads and said, oh boy, here we go. Here's some more terminology that I could care less about. I'll just go through the exercise of checking the box. But the great news about large corporations is the fact that you actually have experts that are aware of what's going on, understand the threat landscape, are able to purchase and ensure that proper tools are being put into your ecosystem to protect your environment. And certainly if you're a larger organization, if you face a cyber attack, you're more than likely to have the proper resources to be able to recover from that attack. We know larger organizations typically have systems that are duplicated, they get back up faster, and certainly have the financial wherewithal, the legal teams, the insurance policies, and things of that nature that are able to support a recovery effort. But it's a very different story for the small and medium-sized business that's out there. Estimates are that roughly 10 to 15%, yes, 10 to 15% of small and medium-sized businesses actually have any type of cyber effort put into place within their organizations. I'll make this even starker reality for you is that, yes, we also see this play out even in tech startup worlds. So you would think somebody who is building a technology solution would be aware of, would be taking the steps, but the fact of the matter is that is absolutely not happening. We see the behavior of a physical supplier, quite frankly, mimicking very closely to a digital supplier. In addition, we know for small and medium-sized business, more often than not, it's taking these organizations, half of them, over 24 hours to recover, if they recover at all. And for those that are able to recover, and if they're able to get back up and running, the vast majority of them have had some sort of a data breach related to that effort as well. And then this last statistic is not a fun one, but if you're a small, medium-sized business, again, right, in that 5 to 10,000 range or smaller, the likelihood of you surviving a cyber attack after 6 months and continuing to be in business drops by 60%. And so as you're a procurement organization looking to bring on organizations that are small and medium, this is what they're facing a day in the life of. And the cyber criminals know this, that they are attacking these smaller organizations because it is a pathway into your organization. So if you're a small organization, roughly 82% of the attacks were directed directly towards organizations that had 1,000 employees or less. So think about the opportunities out there today to be able to do quick research and understand how big an organization is, and then to be able to change the trajectory of that target attack. The second piece that we know is that small enterprises, on average, 1 out of every roughly 300 emails is a specific attack, hoping that a small business employee will snap on that email, will take the phone call, will be directed to an IRL that doesn't work properly, and they get ensnarled in a cyber effort. And last but not least, the opportunity around social engineering threats, right? You're a small company. The spoofing that is going on, I will tell you, is very real. And typically what we also know is that, you know, if you are in this small, medium-sized business area, there's a huge challenge for you in terms of facing these opportunities. So if you're a big company, right, as I was, and helping to support procurement teams of large organizations, typically you will have a formal plan of process in place to be able to support your tier 1 and your tier 2 suppliers. And the fact of the matter is that long tail, as we would all love to get to, we typically end up saying that these entities, we just hope and pray that they're actually following the policies that we've put into place. And I'm here to tell you that that hope and pray methodology is not going to serve you very well. I want to share with you a little bit in terms of the impact that happened here on a case study just this past year. So Flycatcher had a smart tablet, or rather smart sketcher solution that they were getting ready to put into market around the Christmas time. Cyber criminals usurped and took advantage of small and medium-sized carriers, pretended that they were these small and medium-sized carriers, infiltrated trucking systems and the systems of large corporations, and rerouted the trucks. So now they've got real product on real trucks. The carriers believe they're going to real locations, and in reality, that product was being delivered to fabricated warehouses. It resulted in over $1 million of physical product loss for this organization, obviously impacting their holiday sales efforts. But more importantly is the story that follows afterwards, which is the fact that this company is now entangled in legal lawsuits with over 14 organizations. And this is all because of not spending time and energy thinking about the small and medium-sized carriers that are part of their network, and how are they actually ensuring that they've got the right protections in place. So here's what we also know, that over 85, depending on what research article you'll research, 85 of the breaches that happen in industry are actually the result of human error. So this is not because somebody didn't have the right technology in place. It's not because they didn't have necessarily an expert in place. It's that they actually just didn't understand some of the human factors that come into play in terms of providing a window for a cyber attack to happen. There is an organization that's been stood up. It's a nonprofit entity that's backed by T-Mobile, MasterCard, Apple, and Microsoft, that has created a suite of tools that are free of charge to small and medium-sized businesses, that provides a training module specifically geared towards organizations that are solo entrepreneurs all the way up to that small, medium-sized business, to help raise awareness around these human factors that potentially will impact the organization's cyber capabilities. It walks them through and provides them with a playbook that helps them understand what are the steps that they should be taking if a cyber attack were to happen to be able to recover quickly. They're partnered with a coach from the industry that really understands these cyber capabilities to help them in the creation of that playbook. And if they so desire, they're able to go through a third-party certification process with the use of that playbook as well. So this is a great tool for those of you that might be looking for an approach to how you might secure the long tail. And for those of you that are in the audience that are a small or a medium-sized business, this is a great tool for you to think about using as well. So how are we starting to see some of these tools play out in the marketplace? So within procurement organizations globally, what we're starting to see is that they are taking some of these human-based capabilities and adding them into their onboarding and procurement processes, right? So thinking about how do I not just hope and pray that somebody's checked a box and they're doing what we're asking them to do, but actually starting to think about the rigor and having this independent review. So we're working with corporations in terms of how do they think about engaging these tools within the organization. The other way is similar to the members that we have, the Microsofts, the Apples, et cetera of the world, partnering with us to understand what else are you seeing that is starting to emerge within the small and medium-sized business landscape, and steps that we might be able to do to help you to better protect those entities as well. Because we know that even your tier 1 and your tier 2 suppliers, they're typically buying from other suppliers, and their suppliers are buying from their suppliers, and thus on. So the more we're able to actually secure the environment of these larger organizations, the better off we all are. And certainly, if you're a small or a medium-sized business partner, one of the great benefits is that you already have a readily available methodology for you to be able to use that is trusted by organizations and backed by research to help you from the standpoint of putting the basic hygiene principles into place and really making sure that you're taking steps to make sure that when a potential cyber attack happens, you are not one of those statistics that is no longer in existence, but you do survive that 6-month mark. You're able to recover less than the 24 hours, what have you. So with that, I want to just kind of circle back to some of the key themes that I started off with, which is, look, you know, this is a topic that none of us are really typically very excited to chat about unless you're in the cyber field, and then you don't want to stop talking about it. But my hope is that there's an appreciation and understanding that with the advent of all of these new capabilities, particularly the generative AI, the LLM systems that are out there, et cetera, the threat landscape from a cybersecurity perspective, quite frankly, has never been lower. It continues to increase, and I'm not saying this to scare you, it is a fact. So as you're thinking about your procurement processes and the tools that you're building on, how are you really thinking about the resilience of your landscape, potentially in a different way? And really, how are you focusing on those small and potentially medium-sized suppliers that are part of your larger ecosystem? The second piece is that, look, you know, we also know that the integrity of our supply chain, no supply chain sits by itself. It is typically part of a broader network. So as you think about these topics and opportunities like the event we're at here today, it's a great opportunity for you to start to network and just talk about what are you seeing, what are you hearing. As I mentioned earlier, we know that over 40% of our supply chains just last year were attacked. You are not alone. I like to say this is sort of like the family discussion. Nobody wants to out the black sheep of their family, but I'm telling you, if you look to the right of you, you look to the left of you, one of you has been attacked and you've got stories to tell. And part of what we can do in terms of helping to create a safer ecosystem is the opportunity to start to take the stigma away from this and to really have a better conversation in terms of what might you be able to do in terms of really trying to drive the integrity of the supply chain more effectively. And then last but not least, right, when we talk about collaborative cyber efforts, you know, this is not just about having deep technology knowledge in terms of how you're protecting your infrastructure and your tools. It comes back to the basics in terms of the attack vector is likely going to be human error. So how are you thinking about the training, the engagement, the awareness, not just of your staff, but of the players that you've got in your ecosystem? And as a practitioner for years who used to dread that daily call of, hey, it's time to take your annual training again, I will tell you that the more I've engraced myself into some of the data and some of the awareness, that your biggest ally and your biggest friend in this potential battle are in fact your chief supply chain security officers, who quite frankly, oftentimes we push at the bay and we say, hey, just tell me what I need to do, I'll get the bare minimum done and move on. That now is an opportunity for you actually to bring them closer and help them and help you work in a smarter, more effective, more efficient manner as you think about the cybersecurity landscape and the threats that potentially are attacking your cyber efforts. So with that, I just wanted to close and just say thank you. It's been a pleasure being with you all today. I hope that this gave you a piece of information that you can take away and that's valuable to you, whether or not you're a sole entrepreneur and just starting a company or you're a larger organization.